I want to see what we've cleaned up. And
Yeah.
in his press conference, he talked about, well, it's on me, it's on the coaches, it's on us. But if I was a reporter in there, and I know he wouldn't answer it, no coach does, no politician does. It's just the way of the world. But I would ask him point blank, okay, what did you do to clean it up? What
That was my exact thought when I watched the press conference.
Yeah. What specifically did you do with the offensive line to clean up the mistakes that will not lead to an offsides, that will lead, that will address the cadence? Um, how are you not going to have those penalties? What exactly did you work on in pass protection that's going to clean that up? Don't worry about what the defense is doing. Let's worry about Auburn.
Yeah.
What did we clean up there? And then how are we going to execute these plays? What did you work on? The details. Tell me. And of course they wouldn't. They're not going to tell you that, but that's what I want to know
Yeah.
is what did we clean up and how did we clean up?
Hold that thought for just a second. We'll take a
Yeah.
short break and talk more about that in just a minute on the Horizon Financial Halftime Report. All right, welcome back, everyone, on the Horizon Financial Halftime Report, chatting with Brian Brinsfield, former Auburn Tiger. And Brian, before the break there, we were talking about what kind of adjustments, what kind of changes did this Auburn staff make during the off week and their few days to, as Coach Freeze calls it, self-scout.
Right.
And we were talking about this earlier in the day, but my gut feeling is that there are some deficiencies, we'll call it, in the offensive staff
Hmm.
that are pretty glaring right now.
Yeah.
But Coach Freeze is at the point in his career and his career at Auburn where he's not going to make wholesale changes in his staff. These are the guys that he has coached with at Ole Miss, at Liberty. He's where he wants to be with his staff. And I don't see that changing a whole lot.
Yeah. No, I don't either. I think you're absolutely right. Um, but if that's the case, then what are we doing on a daily basis to make number one those coaches better? What are those coaches doing to make themselves better? And then what are those coaches doing to make the players better? Because both of those things have got to take place. The
Yeah.
coaches have got to get better, and the coaching has got to get better. And I want to know what that is. I'd love to know.
Yeah. And to your point, what did they do in the off
Yeah,
week to get better? If
yeah,
they, this is a staff he's had for a while. He handpicked them for Auburn.
yeah.
What do you change? What do you do in the middle of the season?
Yeah, and I don't want to make light of what he said about Xavier Chapman in his hearing. If the young kid has a hearing loss, then number one, we should have known probably about that. And again, I'm not making light of that at all.
Right.
That whatsoever. But then how are we fixing it? How are we communicating that? But I said this last week a tackle shouldn't really be focusing on the clap, the voice, anything. An offensive tackle in pass pro should be focusing on that defensive end. And when that defensive end goes, you go. And
Yeah.
that's really all he should train his brain to think about and his eyes to think about is that guy in front of him because the ball's too far inside.
Right.
And it's too loud to hear Jackson. It's too loud to hear a clap. So that's what he should be training up. Now, how they coach that, I have no idea. How Auburn is coaching Xavier, I have no idea. But with the knowledge we heard in the press conference, okay, so how are we addressing that?
Yeah.
And how are we going to clean those things up?
Yeah. And apparently they've made some kind of adjustment there where hopefully it'll be better. But
Hopefully.
to your point, as long as they're in pass pro, it should be fine to look at the defensive tackle. Now, if we're in a running play, that would be different. But anyway, so we'll see what happens there. And then the fact that he mentioned too tall even
Yeah.
is a little bit shocking. That too tall will get some more reps, but Chaplin has a hearing problem, so I didn't really put that together exactly. But let's talk about Auburn, Georgia, just a little bit in general. I know everybody remembers Ricardo Lewis and the great catch that he made against the Dogs. But looking back to your career, Brian, anything stick out about Auburn, Georgia?
It was always a really physical ball game, and we knew that going in. Um, both it was kind of like Alabama, where we all knew each other, kind of. You recruited together, you knew each other, and you spent some of the times you spent the summer working out with those guys. But my true freshman year, I had my wisdom teeth taken. Was supposed to have one wisdom tooth taken out on a Tuesday before the Georgia game. I've never really seen Coach Dye that mad in front of me, and I thought it was at me, but it wasn't. But the dentist took all four of them out the Tuesday before, and Coach Dye didn't think I was going to be able to play, and he was livid, and he was mad at the dentist, and it manifested itself right in front of me, and I had sutures in my mouth, and as soon as I got hit. The first time I got hit snapping the ball, of course you could hit the center back then. All my sutures came out and just bled the whole game long. And they kept every time I go to the sideline, they had this gel that was supposed to numb my mouth. I couldn't talk. I felt like Kramer on Seinfeld, but and just spitting blood the whole game. I couldn't eat the pregame meal. Had to eat soup. It was horrible.
You didn't bleed out though, right?
No, but you know what? I do. My grandparents were from Atlanta, and it was always a game that they got to go to. And my mom all got to go to the Georgia game in Athens those two times, and just but a good fun game, and we beat them over there. Just a good fun game.
Yeah, that's a great story. I can only imagine the expression on Coach Dye's face
Oh, he
about
was
the
he was
about the
lit. We were in the
dentist.
training room, and he went over he went over to our head trainer and just let him have it. And it wasn't his fault. The dentist just took all four of them out, and it was not a good rest of the week for
Yeah,
me.
yeah. Well, let's obviously Auburn, Georgia is a big game this weekend, a night game um, at Jordan Hare Stadium. Let's talk about some of these other ball games that are coming up this weekend in the SEC. Bama and Missouri, of course, they tied last week, took out Vandy and Pavia in
Yeah.
Tuscaloosa, handled that game pretty well in the second half, I thought. Um, is this a little bit of a trap for Bama? They're playing pretty well right now. Simpson's playing well. An early game, though, against Missouri could be one that they struggle in the first half.
I say it's the upset of the week. I'm going to call it my dog or whatever they say on game day.
Yeah.
I really think it's a game that they could absolutely end up losing and it come back to haunt Alabama in the end of the season. An early ball game, like you said, it's at Missouri. Missouri's got a quarterback from Penn State from last year. They've been playing pretty well. Got a really good coach, Coach Drinkwitz, and they got all the makings of a good upset.
Yeah.
So we're coming off a big win against Vanderbilt and maybe thinking a little too much of themselves.
Yeah. And the other early game is Washington State at Ole Miss. And that shouldn't be that big of a battle, I don't think. But the surprising thing to me, or not that surprising, but I feel like Ole Miss is a little bit under the radar at this point, but they're number four in the country.
I was going to say under the radar, but number four.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
that's
Nobody's
weird, right?
talking about Ole Miss, right? But they're
No,
number four, and probably Lane Kiffin saying, this is just the way I want it.
that's exactly. Well, there's some bigger stories out there. You have Penn State losing to UCLA. That's a big story. You have
Yeah.
Texas losing to Florida. You have all these stories out there, and Kiffin and his Ole Miss Rebels are just kind of like you said under the radar for winning. So we'll see where they play in Ole Miss.
It is at Ole Miss, yes.
Yeah, I think they'll take care of business, but
Yeah.
and quietly do so. He may not want to rock the boat on X like he usually does right now.
And we've got number six, which is kind of hard to believe, Oklahoma
Yeah,
at Texas. And Texas is starting to feel a little bit of heat from what happened last week.
yeah. This will be a weird ball game because Mateer's out, so the
Yeah.
backup quarterback is in, who had a kind of a warm up game this past week, and then you got Arch, who didn't have a horrible game, but it wasn't a great game. And they're just really struggling to have an identity. I think Texas is, especially on offense.
Is he
So
going to make it, do you think? Is Arch going to make it?
I don't know. I mean, it wasn't a horrible game against Florida, but
Yeah.
Florida had a really good game offensively, which they haven't had one all year. So,
A game that Texas should have won, though.
a game that Texas should have won by all rights, but who shows up? Who shows up for Oklahoma and who shows up for Texas this week? I have no idea. I guess we'll see. But that's a 50-50 ball game.
Yeah. Then we got Arkansas and Tennessee. The Vols having a pretty good year. Arkansas has had some coaching struggles there. But,
The
how
hog
much
rides again.
yeah, how much does this Arkansas team change the rest of the season?
Yeah, with Petrino, who knows? I mean, you've seen it. You've seen it year after year. A coach gets fired mid-year, another coach comes in, and it kind of reinvigorates. I mean, UCLA had it happen last week. An interim coach comes in and kind of reinvigorates the team. It happened in Michigan a year or so ago, and but it does happen, and you may see it. You may see him come in and catch on fire. So who knows?
Yeah. Then
Who
we
knows?
got Florida traveling to Texas A&M, and the Aggies are ranked up there now, number 5, I think. Yeah,
They're way
in
up
the
there.
top 10. Gators with a big win last week, so I would expect the Aggies to take care of business, and you got to appreciate the job that Coach Elko is doing down there, and a guy that used to be at Auburn, Trooper Taylor.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. They're doing good things at Texas A&M after Jimbo and and in his contract and all the things. But then Florida, they got their best. They probably got their best football player back last week. The kid Dallas kid, the wide receiver,
Yeah.
who's just a beast, and it showed and it helped them. So who knows what happens out there? But Texas A&M is just a hard place to play, and so we'll see.
Yeah, we got South Carolina, LSU. I don't think there's any big uh, comments to make on that one. I don't think either one of those teams are going
I don't
very
like
far.
either one of them.
Yeah. But when you're talking, we were talking about Elko, and then
Yeah,
talking about Coach Lee at Vanderbilt.
yeah,
Those are two guys in the Southeastern Conference that have roots where they are, good football coaches.
yeah,
So I would expect those two teams to be pretty good for a pretty good while.
yeah, yeah. When you have somebody who's passionate about your team, and passionate about where they are, I think that really makes a difference. And who could we could talk about that, but who could we get at Auburn that's passionate about it? And I don't know. But you're right. I mean, Coach Lee at Vanderbilt is just has a passion for that university, and it shows. It really does show. That game was much closer than the score than the end of the ball game score
Yeah.
indicated. And Coach Elko's done a really good job for the last 2 years, and even before that. So
Give
it's
give
fun to
credit to
watch.
Alabama defensively and
Oh, good
offensively. I think they
gosh.
performed pretty well the last couple of games.
Yeah,
But
Ty Simpson's probably the best quarterback in the country right now.
yeah, a lot of people talked about Mateer early on. You got to
Yeah,
start thinking about Simpson now, right?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, there has been some talk this week and some rumblings about what would happen if Georgia wins big this weekend and then we lose to Missouri. Would there be a move? And like you were talking to your point, as people say now, um,
Yeah,
who would be who would be the interim? I think we know who would be the interim coach,
yeah,
but would the interim coach have a chance to go on after that if that happened to be the scenario, or who is out there that Auburn might look at?
yeah. I don't know if there's anybody out there right now that's free out of their contract that Auburn would want. But I think they would give DJ a chance to interview, obviously, and be in the running, and he'd be a high top candidate. He'd have to be. Um,
I think I'll just say this about I really like DJ Durkin right
yeah,
now, and if something happens, I think he deserves a shot. But I
yeah,
think Brian, here's what I think about it. If we don't snap him up, somebody else is going to snap him up.
Well, who was it? I think was it Ohio State? You said a couple of years ago that, or
Well,
last year that
yeah,
wanted
last
them.
year for defensive coordinator, but I mean
Yeah,
for a head coaching spot.
right. No,
Yeah,
I get that.
yeah,
No, somebody's going to want him because he's done a phenomenal job here with what he's been given at Auburn on the defense side of the ball. If he does get the job, man, then the question is, who does he hire as a play caller,
yeah. Who
right?
is he close to?
And does he give the defensive reins to somebody else? I wouldn't want him to. I would want him to do what the Oklahoma coach has done and kind of still take over, still have the defensive
Yeah.
play calling duties.
And then you kind of run into that situation like offense for Auburn right now, where you've got Coach Freeze, who's an offensive guy. He's got a coordinator, but who is really calling the plays and who is really
Yeah.
drawing up the plan during the week?
Well, don't hire a coordinator if that's the case. Have a head coach DC
Yeah.
and then have an OC. But I would really be interested if we did hire DJ Durkin to see who he would hire as offensive coordinator and what kind of offense. Again, you've got to think about it with the binoculars on what your roster looks like, and then you've got to hire a coach not knowing what your roster is going to look like because of the portal.
Yeah.
How hard is that?
It,
Because you
hard for
got to
every
think.
coach everywhere,
Yeah, we
even if you're staying in place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but if you're interviewing people based on the roster you have, and right now I'd say I'd hire a guy that is proficient in passing because of the wide receivers we have. But
Yeah.
then you hire him and he comes in and our receiver room leaves.
Or are they going to be gone? Yeah.
Then then what are you left with?
Yeah. And I really
Uh,
like, as I told you, I really like the guy at TCU.
yeah,
And I think he's doing a great job there with probably not as much talent as some other teams have. And the one thing that sticks in or comes into my mind about when you talk about the receiver room next year, where are they going to go? And what do you think Cam Coleman's thinking?
yeah.
Where's he going to go?
I don't want to play.
Where would you go if you were Cam Coleman, right?
Well, Ty Simpson's the best quarterback in the nation, right?
Yeah.
Um,
You got to think
uh,
there's going to be a lot of money coming his way.
Man, it probably already is. I don't know how it works, how that all that works, but I mean, we haven't talked about this, and I don't know if we have time left. Yeah, we have a little bit of time left,
Yeah.
but you haven't floated this idea, and I think it's a phenomenal idea the way that these contracts are structured with the buyouts. Tell the people what your thought was on the how a contract should go. If you're an AD and you're going to give a coach a new contract, tell the folks what your thoughts were on that contract.
Like what I sent to you.
Yeah,
Well, I think you've gotten into a ridiculous situation in college football where what we're paying Gus, what we're paying Harson, when it's partly Auburn's fault. I won't,
yeah.
it's not their fault, but
Jimbo's making 80 million, 70 million.
he's
Two
got a huge
guys.
buyout, whatever it
Right,
is.
right,
After in the middle of his contract,
right.
Dabo is in the middle of his contract. His buyout is $60 million.
He's daring Clemson to
Now,
fire him.
what attorney that graduated from Clemson signed that contract? I
Yeah,
want to know. I would fire him immediately.
sure.
But anyway, you're to what you said.
Yeah.
My contract that I would offer the new coach, I would want somebody young. I
Mhm.
would want somebody hungry. I would want somebody that wanted to coach at Auburn. I don't know who that is right now. We'd have to find that guy. But I would make it incentive based,
Yeah,
and I would pay him. I forgot what I said exactly, but 2 or 3 million base salary.
right,
Here's your base. You win the SEC, you get a $2 million bonus. You go to the 12-team playoff, you get another $2 or $3 million bonus.
right.
You on down the road.
Sure.
So you win the national championship, we'll give you $10 million.
Right.
So I think that's the kind of thing we should be looking at instead of Sexton calling all the shots. I
Yeah.
shouldn't say Sexton.
I'll throw another incentive because I think this is very apropos for today's college atmosphere. You keep 70% of your roster or 80% of your roster, I'll throw another 2 or 3, $4 million in.
Yeah. Ooh. I don't know if a coach can do that, but
Well, I mean, it's worth the try.
you got to give them a big budget then, right?
it's worth the try. I mean, if you want consistency, and that's an incentive. To me, that's an incentive. I'm going to do everything in my power. Number one, I want the bonus. Number two, I want the consistency to know what I'm going to be playing with next year.
Yeah. And speaking of money, we didn't cover this topic yet, but
You're paying me for this?
yes, your
Okay.
check
All right.
is
Thanks.
on Venmo or however that works.
In the mail.
But the Auburn home game next year against Baylor, moving
Oh
to
yeah.
Atlanta to the
Yeah.
Mercedes to be the Aflac game.
Yeah. I'm
So
not a
what do you think
fan.
about that? I don't really like that.
Yeah, I like a home game. There's not a better home game in my opinion than Jordan-Hare Stadium. Now, we've it's changed a lot since I played. They've got lights that come on and cannons that go off and smoke everywhere and lasers and it's crazy. The kids are out there. Can you imagine Pat Dye letting us go out and dance between the third and fourth quarter?
No.
Can
I
you? I mean, the
I specifically remember kids scoring a touchdown and dancing when he was there and him saying,
go take your clothes. Go
you
take your
won't ever do that again.
yeah. Go take your uniform off, son.
So, but I was
Uh,
watching a game earlier this week. I think it was in the 80s and there was I'm trying to think it was the gosh, I can't remember what I was watching, but it was a game where there was no upper deck on the east side. You know, that there
of,
was
of,
not an upper
of
deck
Jordan
there
Hare.
yet. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
So,
but there's not a better place in college football, I think, to watch a football game than Jordan-Hare Stadium. So to move it to the but it's all about money. So do we want to travel to ATL? No, but that's where they want us to go. So we'll have a big Auburn contingency because that's what Auburn fans do. They travel,
well, and at least there's a lot of Auburn people in Atlanta,
like we
as we
just
found
talked
out for
about.
the basketball games or the football games or whatever. So that is still an advantage for Auburn. Probably a little bit easier for the Baylor people to get there.
Yeah, boy, we've got a lot to talk about with Auburn basketball coming up with a new head coach, don't we?
We do. Stephen Pearl is the man, and we'll see how many players he can keep after year one.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
all right, Brian, always good to visit. Auburn, Georgia coming up this weekend. Enjoy the ball game and War Eagle.
War Eagle, Doug. Thanks for having me.